Greetings, golfers. Welcome to the first episode of the Sunday Sandbagger podcast. We cover fantasy golf, golf betting, and the storylines that matter in the sport from the perspective of our home fantasy golf league, the Sunday Sandbagger. I'm your host, Sports Guy Ty, two-time defending UPS Cup champion and three-time Seersucker Jacket winner. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Roy Tin Cup McAvoy, also a member of the Seersucker Jacket Club, and Shallow Callow, who is just not very good at fantasy golf. Gentlemen, welcome. Shallow Callow, the floor is yours first to respond.
Thursday through Saturday, great fantasy golf player. Sunday, we're working on it, trying to get that swing around. We'll be there. Don't worry. Don't worry about me.
He doesn't lie. All right, so let's start off the podcast first by telling me what you're drinking, and then go ahead and give me one storyline in the world of golf you're interested in for the upcoming year, and also one storyline that you're interested for in the Sunday Sandbagger for segment 2. Tin Cup, kick us off.
I am drinking a little Woodford Old Fashioned here. Very nice, aromatic bitters.
What kind of bitters you got?
Don't ask me that. I don't know. The one in the bottom. So the two storylines that I'd like to bring up, the one in the world of golf is obviously what a year we have ahead of ourselves. Some are calling it the super season. Here in the world of our fantasy league, I think it's time just to talk about some of these non-Seersucker winners, or as I like to call them, the underperformers.
And we've got a handful of those for sure.
Speaking of which, Shallow Cal, I noticed you weren't wearing something that the rest of us had on.
It's a good-looking jacket you've got, Tin Cup.
Sponsored by 360 Souls. What can I say? I've got all these beautiful golf cleats behind me to make up for the lack of a Seersucker jacket. Don't worry,
That's
guys.
a hell of a collection. It just about gets you there. All right, Shallow Callow, give me your storylines for the world of golf and for the Sunday Sandbagger segment 2.
The Sunday Sandbagger.
And your drink, sorry.
From the end of the pack, make a run at the year-long tournament. Bring it closer, or are the top guys just going to further distance themselves, making it harder and harder to reach as the season goes on. For the world of golf, it's Jordan Spieth, man. What happened? He's out of the top 50 in the world right now after being ranked as the second best golfer in the world at one point. When you lose it like that, can you mentally and physically get it all back? I'm not really sure, so we'll see.
What's in your cup over there, Shallow Cal?
Tequila. I've been out of a restaurant too long, missing my Mexican friends. I haven't spoken Spanish in a long time, so tequila it is.
Tequila Tuesday. All right,
yes,
well, for starters, I'm drinking Glug. Cheers.
Lovely. Cheers.
Glug.
Glug is a traditional Scandinavian winter wine. Similar, it is a mulled wine. So it's a hot wine that Sweden, Denmark, Norway, a lot of the Scandinavian countries drink Glug, and I was feeling festive, picked up a bottle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I heard of a Mississippi pot roast today, actually. And it had ranch seasoning sprinkled into the pot roast.
Lost me.
Gross.
Not a ranch man either.
And they were like, "It's the best thing ever," and I'm just sitting there thinking, "Why is this a Mississippi roast if it's got ranch dressing in it?" But
ranch dressing's a made-up condiment.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Anyway. All right, two storylines I'm looking forward to. First, in the world of golf, will we see Charlie Woods play another round of competitive golf on live television in 2021 before the PNC Championship in December? As far as the Sunday Sandbagger goes, I'm interested to see if Ridgely is going to submit a lineup for any tournaments in segment 2. We'll get into a little bit more about why that's significant, why that's important later on when we introduce the league. But we'll circle back around to our storylines to follow at the end of the podcast. We'll riff on that a little bit more and give you some more in-depth thoughts about where we're going to take each of those. So before we jump into our first topic, let me give you a quick overview. Again, this is the Sunday Sandbagger podcast. We're going to record weekly, bringing you coverage on fantasy golf, golf betting, and any storylines of importance in the world of golf. For this episode, we're going to introduce the Sunday Sandbagger, America's Fantasy Golf League. This is our home golf league that we all play in together, and we're going to look at a lot of the topics we cover through that lens. We'll give our thoughts on the PGA Tour fall schedule, as well as the segment 1 recap from our fantasy league. We'll jump into previewing the Century Tournament of Champions, live golf back this week. We'll get into our best bets, and we'll revisit again the storylines that interest us most. So without further ado, let me give a little breakdown on the Sunday Sandbagger. So this is an old-timey fantasy golf home league. Bunch of guys that got together several years ago. Originally started with a group of high school buddies, all from Ann Arbor, a couple cousins thrown in there. We've got 13 members currently. 12 of them are active. We come from 6 states. As I mentioned, the common thread are those high school buddies from Ann Arbor, but we've since expanded to include an Ole Miss segment, a few more referrals after rigorous vetting, and we've got a pretty darn competitive fantasy golf league that generates a good bit of banter. Either one of you ever played fantasy golf before this league kicked off?
No, and to be honest, it was completely new to me. Didn't take it that seriously up front, so didn't do any research or just pick 6 random names. I remember you guys making fun of me for just who the heck are you playing this week? And then I started getting into it. And it's funny how much I really enjoy it. I was speaking to Dimple Balls earlier today, so it's his favorite form of fantasy that he plays.
Man, I like to hear that. What about you, Shallow Kello?
I like it so much better than fantasy football. I like it so much better than any fantasy, because you can really manipulate your roster week to week to very different opinions and different matchups. Whereas fantasy football, you're stuck with players. So many people in so many different leagues are so unwilling to make trades or make moves and do big things. And your big players, you're almost stuck with them for the year. Whereas in fantasy golf, on a week-to-week basis, you can select your big hitters, your long shots, and your mid-tier guys that are different plays. So that's what really drew me to fantasy golf, and it's great. It's fantastic.
I love the fact that I'm vested in every tournament during the year playing season-long fantasy golf. And I play daily fantasy golf too. I love the world of golf betting. I'm very intrigued by where the industry is going and really how they're kind of colliding, which we'll talk more about in future episodes. But I think that's what I like most about the season-long fantasy aspect is different from daily, different from submitting a weekly betting card. You're vested in something that continues on, right? And so every tournament's meaningful. You're planning for lineups that are upcoming, et cetera. It's very similar to a one and done league, which again we'll add as a topic in future podcasts. But it's a lot of fun. I think what makes our league so great too is we have a lot of great banter. We use GroupMe as a way to communicate constantly about the league, and I would advocate for any fantasy golf platforms out there that are looking for ways to engage with players. They've got to find some way to integrate that messaging concept into the actual league, because I don't know about you guys, but I probably get as much joy out of the GroupMe as I do actually playing the golf.
And I don't use GroupMe for anything else. So when I see a GroupMe, I automatically know fantasy golf, and it's like, yeah.
Well, we actually use it for work, so I have a couple different ones, and a couple times I've been wanting to send something to the Sunday Sandbagger, about to send it to my work, and realize, oh no, I shouldn't be sending that to my employer.
Thank God.
But no, it's a really great platform, and no, you're absolutely right.
You also learn people's real names if you don't know them personally and get to know their personalities. So instead instead of not knowing somebody or their name or what they're like, they get to kind of talk back and forth. It's not in the messages in the group or through trades. It's natural way of getting to know your league.
Yep. And we probably should have started as well with the fact that we're using our team names in the Fantasy Golf League for the podcast, as well as for the members and the characters that you're going to hear us refer to, like Dimple Balls, like Ridgely. So we'll start to fill in the gaps on who those league members are in subsequent episodes. We'll build some characters and bring everybody along for the ride. So we do play for a little bit of money. Go ahead.
Can we refer to cousin as cousin, though? Because I feel like that should just be cousin.
He has a lot of monikers. Slobbertooth.
He's probably always going to be cousin or Slobbertooth to a good many of my friends that know him.
Absolutely.
So we are competing in our league for prizes. There's 4 segments in PGA Tour Golf's fantasy season. So we play for segment prizes, first, second, third place. We play for a season-long prize. And one of the best engagement components of our league is we also play for weekly side pots. Typically $5 entry for each golfer, nothing crazy. We'll do $10 for majors, TPC Sawgrass, also kind of just when the wind blows right, and we're feeling that. So a lot of the golfers, probably 6, 8, 10 of us each week, play in the weekly side pot. So sometimes we'll actually have split results. A golfer will win the weekly tournament, not be in the side pot. We'll have a second winner, so to say, to reward. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But we also play for a seersucker jacket. And so I'll kick that over to you, Tin Cup, to tell us a little bit more about why that's important.
Well, the seersucker jacket is just one of prominence. It really shows when someone walks into the room, they see that this is a born natural winner, a leader, someone that knows what they're doing. And that type of confidence really instills just future success in this league. So if you see someone walking around with a fresh looking linen jacket and some pinstripes, it's likely that person knows what they're doing.
Absolutely. And how do we get a seersucker jacket?
So you get the seersucker jacket for winning each segment. It's very important to win a segment, obviously, because winning a segment puts you well ahead running into the total season total for the entire season, where, as Ty mentioned, there's an ultimate prize for that as well. But the seersucker jackets really you need to win each segment to be able to acquire one.
6 different golfers have won seersucker jackets since the inception of the league. 2 golfers have won multiple seersucker jackets. All right, before we get into some storylines from the PGA Tour from fall golf, Shallow Callow, give me an update on the league. Where do we stand with the chase for the UPS Cup, which is our season-long championship? Give me some segment 1 info. What do you got for me? And let me say, if by some happenstance you prepared a rap similar to the Masters updates that my boy Chris Vernon does on the Chris Vernon Show down in Memphis, that would be fantastic.
No
can't pressure.
Unfortunately,
no pressure.
But I will tell you that currently I sit 1,004 points back of the lead.
Ooh,
quadruple digits.
I guess you guys want to know who's in first. That is Dimpled Balls. He won segment 1, obviously. Sports guy Ty is behind by 160 in second place. And Tin Cup, 197. So you're getting there. Everybody else is at least 400 points back. Like I said, I'm in at 9th at 1,004 points. And then the next closest person is 2,000 points. So they're double what I'm back. So hopefully Shallow Cow can get a nice little hot start here and start climbing the ranks.
Unlikely.
Great. Unlikely, but also the great thing about fantasy golf, we're only a quarter of the way through the season. There's a ton of points to be made up, and there is a ton of golfers to be cut in individual tournaments to help you make up those points.
Absolutely.
Not this one.
All right, let's transition and recap a few of the top storylines from the PGA Tour fall golf. We'll also get into a little bit of the segment 1 recap from our league. As Shallow Callow mentioned, we've got a seersucker jacket to present to Dimple Balls. We'll give him his due here shortly. But before we get to that, first tournament of fall golf, Also, again, a strange season. We should, of course, acknowledge with the coronavirus pandemic putting a complete stop to golf in the middle of the first round of the TPC back in March. Everything got flipped on its head. A fun season nonetheless, just very different. But I can probably think of no better way for the 2021 season to kick off in the fall than 47-year-old Stuart Sink winning the Safeway Open.
That's
incredible.
I think I sent a text message at some point to one of you guys that was like, turn back the clock. Like, what is Stuart Sink doing right now? And I didn't think he was gonna last. It's one of those, Fred Couples at the Masters when he's 47 years old and leading after 3 rounds,
Tom Watson at the Open,
and then just bombing the final round. I mean, he outlasted everybody. That's huge. And that's great for golf. I feel like if you're not having all the young guys, all the big hitters, all the great iron players, for somebody like Stuart Sink to come out and win, it's great.
It's nostalgic.
Yeah, for sure.
His first win in 9 years.
It's incredible.
I remember watching. I'm actually wearing a clubhouse badge from the old Buick Open in Warwick Hills in Grand Blanc, Michigan. My grandparents lived on the 15th green at Warwick, and so from the time I was
once.
I know. I've only played Warwick a handful of times in my life.
Yeah.
But from a young age, every summer, we were up at the Buick Open, up there Monday, Tuesday on the fan days where you could walk the course during practice rounds, get pictures, autographs. I mean, I remember Stuart Sink from 1997 when I was 11 years old competing in the Buick Open.
But Michigan won the national championship that year.
Sure did. But really cool to see. Another cool storyline that came out of the Safeway Open, Stuart Sink's son Reagan was actually on the bag as his caddy. I was reading the other day. Yeah. His first tournament on the bag with his dad. Pretty good golfer in his own right, from what I understand. But he had just graduated from Georgia Tech, was looking to make a little extra money, save up for his wedding. So he said, "Dad, let me caddy for you." Dad let him on the bag, wound up being a great calming presence for him. He won his first tournament again in 9 years. So,
wow.
Yeah, Stuart goes back to his old caddy for a couple of weeks, and then winds up hiring his son full time for the rest of the year. So he's on
incredible.
His bag now. Yeah. And let me just also say, Stuart Sink's win was 2 shots over Harry Higgs, who is my wife's celebrity golf crush, and she's got the full okay for the hall pass if it ever comes to that with Harry Higgs. That's her guy.
How did that become to be her celebrity crush?
Ty?
There's so many other opportunities. Why that celebrity crush?
So, as you can imagine, she has to endure a lot of golf in this household. I watch a lot of golf. I tape golf. I watch reruns. I wake up at 3:00 in the morning for the British Open. So she sees a lot of golfers on TV.
I've done that before.
And she sees Harry Higgs and just takes one look at him and just falls in love with the fact that he is basically just an overweight, sloppy, ridiculous frat boy who's got an incredible personality. And so I halfway joke about the hall pass thing, but he truly is her favorite golfer, just from the standpoint of every time she sees Harry Higgs' big happy face on the TV, she goes crazy.
Do you have a hall pass for Paulina Gretzky? Is that like on the table, or what's going on there? I mean, if you got Harry Higgs, you get Paulina Gretzky, we're good to go.
I mean, that's probably one I could. No, I definitely could not negotiate that one.
Sports guy Ty, I'm confused. Why do you watch that much golf and still haven't picked up any pointers in your own game?
So we'll get into my game a little bit later, which has been in a 3-year funk. All right. So how about Bryson at Wingfoot? Crushed it.
Yeah.
It's the ball a country mile. It's insane.
So I hit the ball a lot further than most of the people I play with. And I've had rounds where my wedges and my putter are actually doing well. And it's kind of like once or twice a year. And it's an incredible advantage. It's insane. If only he could do it every tournament.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, it's such an advantage, but you lose it. I've lost it too for a month at a time. and then it'll come back. But when you lose it and it goes so far, it's going to go so far right or so far left that you're not going to be able to find it, and you're taking strokes.
Mm-hmm.
His victory at Wingfoot was so dominant that it just fueled all the talk about Bryson breaking golf, right? With the 48-inch driver potentially. I did too. I mean, that Sunday round, I mean, and let's be fair too, Matty Wolff fell apart a little bit on Sunday, young guy.
So much. I want him to win every single week if he could.
We're going to see Matt Wolff and Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, that entire bunch of young golfers continue to win tournaments and win majors.
Anyway,
but so, I mean, Bryson was the only golfer under par on Sunday at the U.S. Open. He goes a 3 under 67. Matt Wolff, again, just kind of ran out of steam. I think he was 5 over 75. So Bryson takes a 6-shot victory out of Wingfoot. And again, I think everybody just looked at that as if this was the new normal, but it didn't translate to Augusta.
No,
it doesn't.
I think almost all of us had him on the starting lineup in the fantasy, and it was ugly. But DJ really came to shine.
If you didn't, and he wins, I mean, it's everybody. Everybody's going to have him at least on their lineup. And their lineup card
too, because exactly like you said, if he won and you didn't have
him, but he was at least on your card, because if he actually did just start crushing Augusta like he did, then he might have weeks like that at Augusta, but is it going to be every single time? Probably not. It's Tiger. When Tiger was better than every single person, he didn't win every tournament.
Right. Just about.
Well, yeah, just about. But I mean, Bryson's not going to do it every week. It's just
right.
I mean, if
there's too many
variables, he's going to do it with the wide fairways. It's going to be this week, and he's just going to start there.
Absolutely, and we're going to get into why that could be important a little bit later when we preview the Century. But how about that Masters in the fall for the first time?
Loved it.
Yeah, I loved it too. It was a completely different look at Augusta, completely different field of the tournament. I really, really got a lot of enjoyment out of that tournament this year.
Did you like having no fans? Because I feel like you got to see more of the course. Like I feel like you got to see the outsides of the green and where the tree line was actually.
And you heard more, honestly.
Yeah, fuck.
It was a totally different field than any Masters has ever been, without question. And the TV ratings were down. They were competing with college football, NFL football that Saturday, that Sunday. The fans not being there, I'm sure, played into that.
That was one of the best Rich weekends I've ever had.
I'm in the same boat as you guys. I loved the Fall Masters for all those reasons, because it was on a college football weekend, because it was a time that we had never seen Augusta. Augusta's one of those almost like mythical places that you only get glimpses at once a spring, and it's so exclusive. Absolutely. It's so hard to see behind the lines, and we just got this almost unfettered access, like you said, Shallow Cal, to the course itself. You could see, all the undulation in Augusta, how wide those fairways actually are. It's a totally different looking golf course without fans.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I'd love to see the majors all rotate at what specific time, like discovering this little thing here of the gem that was the Masters in the fall. What if we could see the spring downpours in the UK in Great Britain for the Open Championship? What if we could get, Pinehurst in the late fall or the early spring, and have it be that New York mist and fog, and even Augusta in the summer, the dead summer in Georgia of Augusta, hitting into those greens after they've been baking for that long in the hot June, July sun. This would be like hitting into a parking lot. You have to stop your ball on that. And good luck.
I love the idea. Here's why it's never going to happen. Golf is an old boys sport. and money. It is so much rooted in tradition.
Yeah.
2020 was a year unlike any other, obviously, right? It turned the whole world on its head, not just the golf world.
But it's the British Open plays like this. The US Open plays like this. The Masters plays like this. It would be turning everything upside down to rotate them and having them played at different times of years. Because the course, every single one of those is going to be completely different every single time of year.
Yeah.
True.
I do love, though, how the PGA Tour has set up the new schedule and the way that they've got the PGA moved up to May. We've got the U.S. Open still in June, British Open in July. You've got the Tour Championship in August, Masters in its traditional spot in April. You've got the TPC Sawgrass in March. I mean, you really have championship golf every single month from March through when the season finishes in August. So while I love the idea of changing up the calendar and looking at different venues, different times, what the PGA Tour's got right now is working for it.
No, I
Fair enough.
understand that, but it was just the Masters in the fall got this this wheel turning in my head. Like, what if we could see Pinehurst in April? What does that look like? Because me and all three of you being from Michigan, in April, I'm sure we're gonna, if it's somewhat nice, we're gonna try and get out on the course. I kind of want to see what's this mist gonna play like. What am I gonna be looking at here? And it just intrigues me to see the different parts of the country featured different times a year. And they tend to just play the warm venues in the cold months.
Definitely. All right. You're listening to the Sunday Sandbagger podcast, where we cover fantasy golf, golf betting, and storylines that matter in the sport. One more from me, and this is a personal one from the fall season of the PGA Tour, and then we'll get into, again, talking Sunday Sandbagger segment 1 a little bit. I can't tell you how much I missed the Asian swing this year. I've just gotten into a groove where that's one of my favorite parts of fall golf, where you get the CJ Cup at Nine Bridges on Jeju Island in Korea. You get Zozo the very next week in Japan. You get the WGC, HSBC in China following that. And a lot of the big names are playing these tournaments. I love being able to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and watch live golf.
Yeah, I don't share your sentiment of waking up at 3 a.m. I would much rather be sleeping, but no, it's a different part of the country. I mean, you and I have had the privilege of playing over there. It's beautiful. So yeah, it's a thing that we definitely missed this season. But like you said, it's a year like no other.
How about that? That was a hell of a fun golf round that we played in Vietnam that time. We took the boat up the Mekong River and played at that course that was actually owned by a bunch of Koreans in Vietnam. A little
completely
island
Korean.
course.
100% Korean spoken.
China took my legs in Vietnam.
Well, and it struck me as a place that was very serious, and I think that there was a sigh of relief from our caddies when they found out that we were just a bunch of buddies playing.
Definitely. How impressed were you, though, when we finished when we made the turn, I'm sorry, and I went into the clubhouse and spoke about 5 sentences of fluent Korean to order a beer and beg for a Snickers?
I mean, I remember when you asked her if you said it in Korean, if she'd give it to you, and then you started speaking Korean, and it was something I didn't know about you. I thought I was dreaming.
I picked up enough to be functional. My very first real trip abroad, not counting Canada, just across the Detroit River here in Windsor, was to Korea. My old roommate was teaching English as a second language over there, and spent about 10 days with him. Learned a little bit of Korean, enough to be functional. Had some vested interest in doing so, but it was a lot of fun. All right, so before we move on to previewing the Century Tournament of Champions, let's do a recap again further of segment 1 in the Sunday Sandbagger, because there were a lot of big storylines, and we hit on a few in the intro here. The biggest one probably is we do have a new member of the Seersucker Jacket Club. As Shallow Cal mentioned, we welcome Dimpled Balls as the 6th member of our prestigious club. Very impressive, very impressive. Relative newcomer. He is in his 2nd full season on tour. And I got to be honest, really, really impressed by how Dimpled Balls came on down the stretch. First of all, he had the seersucker jacket wrapped up by Friday night of Mayakoba. When he took 4 golfers into the weekend with a 150-point lead, nobody was catching him. And again, to be in your second full season in the league and to come up like that and win a segment in that dominant of a fashion, impressive.
Yeah, I even had a little bit of a mixed bag on my lineup because I knew I needed something special to happen, and it's frustrating when you pick little sleeper picks, as you will, and it doesn't matter because he just hit the nail on the head.
Totally. I did the same thing. I probably reached a little bit deeper into the pool than I normally would have because that was a pretty nice field at Mayakoba with some big names, but I knew there was going to be chalk from Dimpled Balls, and running second, third, back and forth with you. There was no way I was going to do it without some kind of slingshot move.
Exactly.
Tell me a little bit more about our 3-way race down the stretch, Tin Cup, because there was a hell of a good back and forth between you, me, and Dimpled Balls.
Well, funny enough, I mean, it all started with double par special. I didn't think anyone stood a chance. Newcomer in the league comes in just guns blazing, just winning tournament after tournament, and then all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden he just fell off the face of the earth. So it all came crashing down for him, and double par. I think it was right around November. And what was funny was at that point, you, Sports Guy Ty, took the segment lead.
Sure
and
did.
Again, I think I was a couple hundred points behind. Kirk was, I think, like 5th at that point. Not even that great, Dimple Balls. And next thing you know, he just shot up to the lead. You and I danced back and forth with the second and third spot a couple times, and tried to approach Dimple Ball as much as we could, but he sealed the deal with a couple nice birdie putts and put us away.
Man, he really did. He's a hell of a golfer himself, and that's a man who knows his PGA Tour golf, and that translates to the fantasy game quite well.
It does. It helps that he has a putting green in his basement of his home.
That would help any of us. All right, another storyline.
That also helps if you own a home in Kansas and you don't have to pay anything for it.
It's a pretty expensive house, I think.
All right, another storyline that came out of the fall in segment 1 in the Sunday Sandbagger, America's Fantasy Golf League. Shallow Cal wins his first side pot. Now, again, I know this is holy cow. I know this is just your first full season on tour. We gave you a conditional membership last year, let you play a few side pots, a few tournaments as well. But, that had to feel good getting the monkey off your back.
It was one of the better text messages I've ever gotten from Craig Pfister in my life. And it simply read,
CBP.
Through the side pot.
Craig Pfister.
What's that?
CBDP.
Oh man, I'm sorry. We should. Are we gonna go or no?
Keep rolling.
All right,
no,
great.
You're good.
All right, cool. So, CBP sent me the message that he didn't enter the side pot, and other than him, it was a close Sunday sweat, and it felt good. I'm not gonna lie. Even though I didn't win the tournament, I'm still looking for that elusive first tournament win. It felt good to at least collect a little bit of side cash there and be able to move along the rest of the way.
Hey, I'll take the cash over the tournament win, although you need the tournament win to win one of these.
It's been so close, and I've had so many.
Your Thursday and Friday rounds have been incredible.
I think I've probably been in the lead going into Sunday 6 or 7 times.
I believe it.
And never converted. So hopefully that'll come through this year.
All right.
That's it. But
so speaking of collapses, as Tin Cup alluded to in his intro there, pretty epic collapse from our tournament or our league newcomer. So Shallow Cow, you brought us a new member this year, as I mentioned in the outset, after some very, very stringent vetting. I think I asked him, do you have Venmo or PayPal? But he came on like gangbusters, man. It was incredible. That dude won the very first tournament in side pot he played in, won another one a couple weeks later, and disappeared. What happened to your boy?
He's a very strategic fantasy player, and
the double par special, we should mention, is who we're talking about.
Yeah, the double par special really double parred a couple weeks in a row in the middle of that round to take himself out of it. But he's a super analytical dude, super smart guy. Love hanging out with him. He's actually a big time golf buddy of mine. We probably played 10 rounds together this year, if not more. He fell off the face of the earth, I guess.
Missed two tournaments
in a row, and I think he thought that the segment was the only consequence, and I had to remind him the third one. I said, "Hey, set your lineup because this is going to be a year-long standings. You can't play just segment by segment. You got the year-long thing." And he started setting his lineup after that, but. Man, what a fall from grace from going from entering the league and winning a couple of tournaments in a row or two
the front runner for the segment championship.
I mean,
absolutely front runner.
He was great, but
and as you alluded to, I mean, if you miss even one tournament, it's so hard to win the season now because everyone else is pretty consistent. So you need a couple lucky tournaments, but realistically, you're playing for segment championships at this point, and I fell victim to that in the first year in the league.
And what award do you win when you miss a tournament?
The Mickey Sleeping at the Wheel Award, was it?
Yes.
The Mickey Callaway Asleep at the Wheel Award, presented by Eric's Winners.
We should get an Adrian Window Crack Award where you just barely crack it and make it happen for everybody.
One of my favorite window cracks.
I love it.
Oh.
All right, so a hell of a first segment. We're going to have a lot of fun in future podcasts talking about the standings, the side pots, the race to the UPS Cup Championship. But now let's turn our attention to the Century Tournament of Champions, first live golf of 2021. Give a little preview here, and we'll talk about as well what we're thinking for our fantasy picks. First of all, primetime golf, baby. Golf on the Hawaiian Islands on TV from 6 to 10 p.m.
I don't know, but I'm really looking forward to this. I mean, it seems like the perfect thing to kind of just wrap up the evening to.
Have you guys ever golfed in Hawaii?
I've never been to Hawaii.
Never been to Hawaii either.
Wow. So I guess I'm the Lone Ranger here that has actually played a round of golf in Hawaii. Actually, I played 3 rounds of golf in Hawaii, and it was way too expensive. However, it is tough this time of year because I played exactly almost to the date a year ago in Hawaii, and the wind, the moisture. I'm pretty long off the tee, and my ball was. I was driving the ball 265, 275 yards, and I'm usually closer to 300 off the tee. And the air is just so thick with moisture. It's going to be tough. It's going to be different, I think.
I mean, you hit on the great variable at Kapalua and the plantation course, the weather, the wind specifically. So the Century Tournament of Champions since 1999 has been hosted at the plantation course of Kapalua, the only par 73 on the PGA Tour this year. It's playing long at 7,596 yards, absolutely, with Tiff Eagle Bermuda grass on the greens. But again, the big variable is the wind and the weather, because you can score at Kapalua. Everybody scores at Kapalua. This is resort golf.
It's because you're spending $300 a round. That's why they want you to score good there.
Exactly.
Hey, and you shoot that again tomorrow.
And you know how you score good when you're paying $300 a round for golf? You have gigantic fairways that you could land a 747 on, and greens that are almost as big.
Sounds like a dream.
Right. Now, the average winning score to par at Kapalua since it began hosting Tournament of Champions in 99, 20 under par. Last year's winner, Justin Thomas, 20 under par. Last year's
Jeez.
winner, though, Justin Thomas, 14 under. And the reason why was the wind. Thursday, Friday, even into Saturday, you had sustained winds of 20, 30 miles an hour with gusts up to 40 miles an hour. And on a course like that, that's on the ocean with those winds whipping off it, it's at elevation, it's on the side of a mountain, so there's no clean lies. I mean, if you can't get that ball through the wind, it's not a course that you can score on.
There's the other part to it too, because I had the wind behind me at one point on a par 5, and I hit a 245-yard 4-iron with the wind behind me.
That's right.
That don't happen very often, but I'll take a 245-yard 4-iron on a par 5 and roll it up there.
Seriously, right?
It knocks it down hard because it's not that you're at ocean level. You're so far up that it just comes and it crushes your ball from both angles.
It could be the difference of potentially 3 clubs on a single shot for these guys, depending on which way the wind's blowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unreal.
So I just hit it as far as I can.
So we got a little bit of a different format this year for the Century Tournament Champions. Typically, this is the big reward for winning in the prior calendar year. It's a no-cut event on the islands in Hawaii prior to the Sony Open. So everybody gets 4 rounds of golf at a resort course. Everybody gets a check. But with the way that, again, the coronavirus wreaked havoc on the tour schedule this year, PGA Tour invited all of the past winners from 2020, plus everybody who qualified for the Tour Championship. So we've actually got a field of 42 golfers this week. The only 3 who were eligible and didn't participate, Rory McIlroy chose not to, Tyrrell Hatton chose not to, and man, poor Jim Herman finally wins another tournament and has to pull out because he gets COVID.
But that's too bad.
I know, poor Jim Herman, our Cincinnati guy. But this is a hell of a field.
Yeah, I love this field. Absolutely.
Well, unfortunately, when it's this good of a field, it's almost paralysis from analysis. I mean, you could pick 10 of these guys and look like you have a knockout lineup, and it's so hard. I mean, you're nitpicking and overanalyzing.
Yeah, 100%, T-Mac. Oh.
So what stats are you looking at? What results, what figures, what's important when you're looking to build your fantasy lineup for Century Tournament of Champions?
Well, I like to look at, past results at this tournament. I mean, I think being able to look at how these players have performed in the past is really important. If you have, guys that are like Patrick Reed, who took second, I believe, last year. I think that's important. Hungry people ready to go and regain that title. There's other things that are important, though, too. Looking at drive, consistency to making, the finals. And even though this is a no-cut tournament, there's a number of different things. Greens and regulation, fairway and regulation. And sometimes it just comes down to your feel.
What about
I think it's definitely about who's ready to go. Having played sports myself, it's like this is the first tournament of the year, and who's hungry? I think that's definitely a huge factor in this one, especially being in Hawaii, because it's like, I mean, if I was Dustin Johnson and I was in Hawaii and I was with Paulina Gretzky, I'd probably be spending more time in the bedroom and on the beach than on the golf course. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, there's definitely different sides to this tournament for different people. It's really hard. It's a golf course that you have a really long golf course with open fairways, so you want to go after long players, but it's a golf course that favors, really accurate iron players like a Kawa and really great ball striker, Patrick Reed around the green, like fantastic player. So which end do you want to choose of that?
I even like Cam Smith.
Yeah, Cam Smith, but Kevin Kevin Na is 125 to 1 to win this thing.
Nah.
If he can have a magical, like, he's a great player around the greens. If he can have a magical week around the greens, who's to say he can't do something special and win this? And at 125 to 1.
Here's what I think about your Kevin Na pick. Nah.
I know.
I'll tell you what.
Kevin
Kevin Na may be the only player in the field that can't put the ball in these fairways off the tee. And if he's pushing it, splashing it everywhere off the tee, he's not going to contend in a birdie fest.
Yeah, that's true. But around the green and putting, we'll see. Maybe.
Listen, there are a few things I love more in golf than watching Kevin Na walk in a putt. That's one of the endearing.
Love the walk in.
Okay, so let me give you a few stats that I'm looking at. But first, Cal, you hit on something that I think is key: the motivation factor at the first tournament of the year. I think we can downplay that more this year than past years, but it's been a thing at the Century Tournament of Champions, right? This is one of the most exclusive clubs in golf. Again, you only get the invite in previous years if you won on the PGA Tour in the prior calendar year. So you've got great golfers there. Again, you're guaranteed 4 rounds and a check. So I think over the years, there's been a lot of question of how much motivation there really was. Guys are enjoying a beautiful resort, a resort course, the Maui scenery.
Pauline Gretzky in her bikini.
Everywhere on TikTok, Instagram. But I'll tell you what, $1.3 million on the line to first and 500 FedEx Cup bonus points. So this can get whoever takes home the tournament this week, it's going to give you a huge push as we're making that turn from fall golf to spring golf. So I think you have more golfers more motivated for this tournament this year than ever before. I'm not going to give you my outright winner just yet, but the reason why I'm picking him is because of that motivation factor. Before we get there, 2 stats for me.
Who's that?
Stroke. What's that?
We'll get to it.
I'll get to it. I'll let you know. I'm gonna tease it.
I just want to know before midnight so I can submit my picks.
So
you
the
need
2
to catch
stats
up to him. You can't just have the same players as him, Cal. Cal.
You got to zig when I zag.
You need to. You got some ground to make up here, man. You need to come up with something creative.
Just wait.
Okay.
All right. 2 stats I'm looking at. Strokes gained approach and approach performance. Good comp for me. Yep. Good comp for me for Kapalua and the Plantation course is actually Augusta. You got the big wide fairways at Augusta, not as wide as resort golf. You have the massive greens at Augusta. Now, the greens aren't going to be anywhere near as fast as Augusta. I think I read that we'll see a relatively solid 11 on the stint meter this week at Century. So nothing crazy. Augusta obviously doesn't report, but
depends on what happens.
Yeah, right. How those wind conditions are.
Yeah.
But here's why I focus on strokes gained approach. I want the best wedge players in the world in my fantasy lineup for this tournament because everybody's going to be in the fairway with the exception of Kevin Na. Everybody. And so where these guys are going to make hay and where the difference is going to happen is 125 yards and in. You got to put that ball. Everybody's going to be on the green. Last year, the field hit a ridiculous 81% green in regulation collectively. So everybody's going to be putting their second shot on the green. How close are you putting that second shot? What's your proximity to the hole?
Do you know who has the most shots gained at Kapalua of all the players in the tournament?
I'll make a guess. You go first, Tin Cup.
So the player that has the most shots gained
at Kapalua in this tournament.
Patrick Reed for me.
Let's go Patrick Cantley.
Nope.
JT. Oh, the X-Man.
X, don't
give it to Xander.
Don't give it to you.
He's gonna be a popular storyline. Okay, so that's again. I'm looking for proximity. That's huge. I mean, those are huge numbers in strokes gained.
Yeah.
He's been successful at Kapalua.
Yeah.
Approach performance for me as well because 3-putt avoidance is key. It's the same deal at Augusta, right? If you're on the green in 2, but you're putting from 45 feet away, you're in a world of hurt. I need you to lag that ball close. And tap-ins. I need those 3 to 6 footers to fall all day long if you're in my fantasy lineup.
And
Let me give you a crazy stat that's
going
to blow your mind.
Me, I putt
All right.
Of the last 22 winners of the Tournament of Champions, only one has finished worse than fourth in putts per round, and that was JT last year. He was 11th. Every winner of the last 22 years, with the exception of JT, has finished fourth or better in putts per round at Kapalua.
Well, he gonna win it this year. So.
I think you might be right.
Spoiler.
All right, well, let's use that as a seg. Let's jump right into it. Give me some golfers you're considering for your fantasy lineup for the Tournament of Champions.
I mean, you've got to just start off with some of the heavy hitters that we mentioned: Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas.
I'm fading Dustin Johnson, man.
Are you?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Okay. Paulina. I'm in Hawaii and I'm having fun and I'm with Paulina and I'm not focused on golf. Meanwhile, some of these other guys are down here playing golf. And yeah, DJ is great, but is he great when he's, distracted by Mrs. Gretzky?
I'll touch on him a little later, but other players that I think that I really was big on looking into was Cam Smith. I really liked his performance in what was that, the U.S. Open,
the Masters. The
Masters.
Sorry, that watching Cam Smith come of age in the Masters.
Which actually, he was the guy that helped me get right back in the league in that tournament.
Listen, I had an outright ticket on Cam Smith at 125-1 in the Masters. That was a hell of a weekend sweat.
I remember. Yeah, I remember you were happy with that. Yeah,
sweating Cam Smith so hard for a tie. I was like, maybe I can get a free run of golf out of this.
So, Shallow Cal, you said you're fading Dustin Johnson. Who are you looking at for this tournament?
I really like Patrick Cantlay. Just as a value at 18 to 1. I mean, he's been so solid since really the restart. He's just been really solid player. I feel like maybe he's due. But
to win at Zozo, that was a huge win.
Value at 18 to 1, I feel like is a very big value. And then
we're gonna talk lines and best bets in the next segment. Give me who you're looking at for your fantasy lineup for the Sunday Sandbagger.
Well, I got Colin Morikawa in there. I got JT. JT, is just playing so solid. Yeah, he's so handsome, like myself. I can't not help but putting him in my lineup. I'm gonna have a hard time only using him 3 times. Also,
well, that's a good point. Are you concerned about using
answer pick? Because M. There are a couple of guys that are off the radar that might be a little more motivated in this tournament to try and show what they've got, and they've been close a few times. So, maybe they get overlooked a little bit and
tell me about that strategy for potentially holding golfers. Why does that matter?
It can matter later. Holding the right golfers at the right tournaments. I actually take a different approach to it. I don't know if you and I have talked about this. My approach used to be holding golfers at times, and again, that was over analysis by paralysis by analysis. And I'd get to the end of the year and have great golfers with not too many tournaments, not as many tournaments, but more positions to play. So I go the opposite approach now. I use the really good guys as often as I can. And I'd rather at the end of the year have to kind of scramble and see, who the sleeper picks are.
Well, I get that approach, and I definitely want to have the good mix of those great players in there because they're obviously the guys that are winning the tournaments, on a more consistent basis. You'd be stupid not to have them in there. But as like holds on benches, as far as I'm concerned, I might, have a guy like I said, that plays this course particularly well in my starting lineup, but DJ or Justin Thomas sitting on the bench just in case my stuff doesn't work out and I can, they're going to win the tournament and I can get those extra FedEx Cup points at the end and play them. I'm gonna put them back into my lineup. And if they sit on my bench, they sit on my bench. I don't lose that, that starter. Uh, uh,
The ball.
The ball, yeah,
So
the golf ball. So I still have them as able to keep on my roster. Just stash them a little bit and hopefully try to ride with, the 4 that I pick as starting, especially in the no cut tournaments. You don't want to be flopping, players around top to bottom.
So for those who don't play on the PGA Tour Fantasy Golf site, what we're talking about is a little bit different than daily fantasy. It's a season-long approach divided into 4 segments, and there's typically between 8 and 14 tournaments per segment. And so the reason why we're talking about potentially holding golfers is you start 4 golfers for every round, and you have 6 in your lineup for every tournament. You get to use each golfer 3 times in each segment, and every time they enter your lineup once in a tournament, that counts for 1 start. I'm sorry, not every time they enter your lineup in the tournament, but once they've entered your lineup.
Yeah, every time they enter your lineup. Yeah.
But
you can start someone on the
tournament.
first and then sit them on the second day and then sit them on the third day, and that only counts as 1. So one use per tournament.
Yeah, if you use them once in a tournament, it counts as 1 of your 3 uses. So there is some strategy into rostering some of the horses for courses, Webb Simpson at the Wyndham, DJ at the Masters, making sure you have stats there. But I've kind of shifted my strategy.
I got a theory about the Masters.
All right. What is it?
If I get to bang Paulina Gretzky for the next year and get to play the Masters, I bet you I could win. I want to test this theory.
Win the Masters?
Bet you any amount of money that none of these scenarios happen.
Well, I don't think that you could break par from Charlie Woods' tees at Augusta.
You should focus on smaller goals like winning a seersucker jacket.
Well, I mean, why go for that when I could, play the Masters?
Baby steps. All right, we got to move on. We got to get to some best bets and finish up our storylines. Give me real quickly, what's your prediction for the biggest side pot of segment 1 in the Sunday Sandbagger? Tin Cup, go.
So you mean dollar amount?
Dollar amount.
Oh, so I think our biggest, have been around 120. I'd like to push that this year since we have so many good tournaments. Maybe for the U.S. Open or something, we can get.
I'm talking just segment 2.
Okay, just
9 tournaments in segment 2. What's the biggest side pot going to be?
Masters.
Masters is in segment 2. You clowns don't even know what segment we're in.
I guess I don't. I thought that was only a couple.
No, I'm not. Okay, I'm not asking for you to predict the tournament for the biggest side pot. Give me a dollar amount. What do you think is the biggest dollar amount we'll play for in these 9 tournaments in segment 2?
Go $150.
Shallow Cal. I'm going under 2, under 3 digits, and here's why. No majors in segment 2, no TPC in segment 2. There's some big tournaments. The one where I think we could, the 2 that I think we could threaten a 3-digit side pot is the Waste Management Phoenix Open, because it's the Sunday it wraps up the Sunday of the Super Bowl, so everybody's going to be excited for it. And we do have a WGC down in Mexico in segment 2. So if those are flipped from traditional $5 entries to $10 entries, maybe we threaten triple digits, but I'm betting we stay under it for segment 2.
Clearly, I should have studied the segments.
All right, let's move on. We'll wrap it up here with just 2 more topics. Our best bets for the Century Tournament of Champions, both for the actual tournament itself as well as for our Sunday Sandbagger betting league, and then we'll finish again just touching on our top storylines from the first segment. So what we're going to do, and we're going to tweak this a little bit each week, we're going to bring you a full betting card next week, but for this week, let me start with you, Shallow Cal. Give me your 1 outright tournament winner and why. Give me one golfer to finish in the top 10 and list the odds for both. Your outright winner, what odds you see them at, what top 10 odds you're getting, and then give me one tournament matchup that you're taking and the odds.
All right. So, outright winners, I can see it going a couple of different ways. I mean, I want to lay Patrick Cantlay. One guy, Cantlay, at 18-1.
I love it. Those are great numbers on Cantlay.
I think that's such a great, just value. You know, if I'm looking at best bet for the tournament, I mean, of course it's going to be, you know, your big swingers, your big guys, you know. But for the value of 18-1, I think Cantlay is a great bet.
All right, before you go to your top 10, let me get outright winner from Tin Cup.
Well, it's funny because I almost considered Cantlay as well because of the website I chose on golfodds.com was at 20-1.
That's a great number, Ron.
That's
really
a huge number.
But just taking odds out of it, even though, I mean, just outright winner, I'm going with Dustin Johnson, 6-1 odds.
Going with the chalk.
Not overthinking it. I mean, good rest from the Masters coming right out of this guns blazing. I don't think he'll get as distracted as Shallow Cal thinks. And fun fact, in the last
Lena,
he hasn't shot over par in the final round in the last 11 months. So I'm feeling good there.
All right, so I'm going to go with Justin Thomas at 7-1 odds. I almost went with Patrick Cantlay as well at 18-1 because he led the field in proximity to the hole last year. One of the premier wedge players in the entire world. I love Cantlay, but I'm heavily invested in JT this week. He was bad in his first start at the Tournament of Champions in 2016, and this is what I alluded to earlier. He's the one who came out and said, "I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't motivated. I was looking
right now too."
Yeah, he was looking forward to just a good reach. And he came back, and the very next year got his first win in 2017, and he's just been laser focused and dialed in at this tournament ever since. He's my one. All right, top 10 in the odds, Shallow Cal.
Mackenzie Hughes, 6-1.
Oh, Mac Hughes, 6-1.
Mackenzie. Yeah, I just think that he's going to be.
Canada.
I think he's going to be a good iron player.
You know that Mac's from Canada, right?
He is from Canada.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, fantastic. That makes it even better, right? Maybe I can move in with him. Who knows? His girlfriend's hot, and he's going to, hit the ball straight. Mackenzie Hughes, top 10, plus 600. Book it.
All right, Tin Cup, give it to me, top 10.
Top 10, I'm going Patrick Cantlay this time. I think, as Cal has alluded to, some people will be distracted by the allure of Hawaii. Cantlay's just nothing but business.
Yep.
And what odds you see him at? Tell me again.
16-1. 20-1.
Wait,
what? Top 10?
Not top 10.
No, top 10. I don't have those odds.
That's got to be like 151.
All right, for my top 10, I'm going Webb Simpson at plus 110. Definitely a shorter number there. It's hard to find a lot of value on the top 10, top 20 guys this week because everybody's good, right? But that's a plus.
Hughes.
That's value right there if he hits it. But Webb Simpson's at a plus number. He started 4 times at Kapalua, T3 twice, T8 to 11. Dude was 11th in proximity to the hole on the for the entirety of the season last year, 13th in strokes gained putting. That's my guy. Shallow Cal, give me your tournament matchup.
X, he gonna give it to you.
The X-Man.
Against anybody, whoever you want to put up against Big X, he gonna give it to him.
Literally,
you guys are terrible at this.
Against anybody.
But the whole point was to find a matchup where you got odds on somebody and picked them.
I didn't know that either.
All right. Well,
I just picked 2 players to go head to head.
Like literally, I got X against literally anybody. Take the odds. Don't care. He's gonna crush it this week. Guaranteed.
Right.
Even though he's coming off COVID, he's 2.59 strokes gained at Kapalua, best of any player. Give me Big X against anybody in the field, honestly.
Let me save this segment and bring this back around the right way.
Tournament
matchup, no. My tournament matchup, I'm going with Bryson, plus 115 over Jon Rahm. And I'm going to tease that I've got two golfers and a thought for those to fade that we're going to get to here very shortly. But Jon Rahm is one of my golfers to fade. And so I saw a plus number again on Bryson at 115 over Jon Rahm. I really like Bryson this week. He's been in the lab, I'm sure, every day since the debacle at the Masters. I mean, he's Christmas morning. I'm sure he's in the lab tweaking and figuring out something. He's going to come ready to play. He's going to be motivated. His length is going to be an incredible asset. And you know what? Bryson is a good wedge player. If his wedge players are on and they're as good as, if his wedges are on, they're as good as they can be, he's going to put the ball close to the hole. He can putt a little bit. I think getting plus money on Bryson in a lot of matchups is where I want to be on this one.
Okay. Well, just jump off of just looking at a website right now and pulling up some odds while you were talking there. I'm going to go Hideki Matsuyama versus Jon Rahm. Matsuyama getting plus 157. I don't know. I like him. That's the only reason I got.
Matsuyama has ridiculous stats at Kapalua and the Plantation Course.
So can I throw something out there?
Go.
Please.
So another golfer that I had to fade this week was Jon Rahm. He switched clubs, right?
I do.
Yeah.
He's one of my fades as well.
Which is, the best in golf, TaylorMade, to Callaway. And they spell their name wrong. So it's like, it's just not right to do that. I don't know what he was doing, but first tournament with it, I wouldn't trust him. I would go against him all the way. New equipment.
Let's jump right into golfers to fade because Rahm is one of my two to fade as well. And I honestly think the equipment storyline is overblown. I mean, these guys are professionals, right? He's still keeping his TaylorMade wedges, his putters for a few tournaments, but it's enough that I just don't want to mess with it, right? There's so many good golfers in this field. Why do I need to take that risk on him, getting loose with the driver or, spraying wedges into the wind, something like that? I think Jon Rahm's going to be fine this week. I think he's going to be a top 10, 12 play. He's got a very good record at Kapalua, but he's one of my big fades just simply for that reason. I'm looking for reasons not to pick golfers this week in a field like this, and he's one for me.
Yep,
the other
absolutely.
one,
I agree.
I'm going to completely counter your support of the X-Man, Callow. He's one of my big fades this week for
COVID?
Similar logic. COVID. Caught it on Christmas.
I get it.
Hadn't played a whole lot of golf. Again, his record is sublime at the Plantation Course at Kapalua. If not for a 3-putt on 18, he wins.
2.59 strokes gained at Kapalua. Best of all
It's unreal. It's unreal. That's when we were texting earlier about the show and in this segment specifically. I mean, it could come back to bite me big this time, but I'm fading X-Man everywhere. I'm fading him in fantasy. I'm fading him on my card.
He's been so consistent too. The last,
He's going to give it to you.
That's right.
I mean, he's been so consistent. Not only, when obviously when you're looking at your fantasy golf lineup, you want somebody that that could potentially win it, but you also have to fill those holes with people who could potentially, are those top threes, top fives, those consistent players. And he is so good last year.
He is.
So
Tin
good.
Cup, you got anybody to fade?
Yeah, I'm going to fade Bryson DeChambeau. Just not very confident. I don't think he's very confident after his performance in the Masters. So
that ego took a bruising.
Yeah,
got crushed.
So I honestly, I think I'm going to stay away from him, let him figure it out. I did the same thing with Dustin Johnson in segment 1. Took a little break from him, came back to him later in the segment, and that paid dividends.
You're listening to the Sunday Sandbagger podcast, where we cover fantasy golf, golf betting, and the storylines that matter in the sport. What we're going to do next week is Shallow Cal and Tim Cup are going to actually get in the lab and do some real research and put together betting cards for you. We're going to bring back this segment in a rebooted format where we're putting, if I were to bet 10 units on a golf card, how would I divide those? So we're going to come back starting next week with the Sony Open. We'll track our picks for you. We'll have some fun with it. Before we wrap up and talk our storylines again, let's quickly make some picks for the Sunday Sandbagger Fantasy League this week. I put together an odds list, odds to win the tournament, side pot. Let me run through it quickly. Yours truly, Sports Guy Ty, leads the field as the favorite at plus 150. Roy Tin Cup McAvoy plus 175. Our segment 1 champion, Dimpled Balls, the third favorite at plus 200. I got a grouping here of Spartaneity, 14 the hard way, and Patrick Weed at all 250, plus 250. We got CBP, a former Seersucker jacket winner, at plus 275. Hags to Rags at plus 300, along with the double par special. We got Shallow Cal at plus 350. We got Bradley Peterson at plus 400. Eric's Winners at plus 1250 and Ridgely at plus 5,000, excuse me. Give me one golfer to win this week, and you can't pick yourself. Shallow Cal.
Double par special. Please pick your lineup this week. You started off last segment so strong. I felt stupid introducing you to the group because you won and you were in the lead, and I'm like, what did I do to us? Like, why did I invite this person who's just going to win? And
he's the great wild card, man. If he submits a lineup, he's probably closer to that plus 200 range.
So that's why I'm taking the value and I'm taking the double par special. Give me him as the outright winner.
All right, Tin Cup, who you got?
This time I'm going to go with CBP here. CBP has... He's racked up some money on this career money list. He knows what he's doing, and he's just kind of fallen off recently. I think it's time for CBP to kind of reemerge and have a nice little run here.
I like it. I considered him as well. I'm going Spartaneity plus 250. One of the most consistent golfers in our league. Actually, this stat surprised me. He went without a tournament win and without a side pot win in segment 1. Don't know that that's happened since we've had him in the league. So he's a golfer who does great in limited fields like this. When the best golfers in the world are playing, he tends to pick some good lineups. I'm going Spartaneity plus 250.
He did just have a baby as well. That might account for that segment 1 lull.
That could put a damper on the fall in terms of golf picks. All right, let's wrap this one up quick so we can end the show with those storylines. Once again, give me a tournament matchup for the Sunday Sandbagger. Don't need odds on this one, but take 2 golfers in our league and tell me who is going to finish higher in the standings this week. We'll start with you this time, Tin Cup.
So I'm calling out one of the podcast members here, Shallow Cal against Hags to Rags.
I like that matchup.
I like the matchup a lot. Pretty close here in your odds. Not that it matters here, but sorry, Shallow Cal. The nod's going to go to Hags to Rags.
Another golfer under the radar who picks some good lineups in these big tournaments.
He does. He finds those Gales lineups. He just goes out there and finds something they're ready for us. It's good.
All right, Shallow Cal, give me your tournament matchup for the Tournament of Champions.
It's funny that T-Mac segued that with the old throwing another podcast member under the bus, but the favorite to win the tournament, Sports Guy Ty, is definitely going to go down to my favorite, the double par special this week.
We battled in the fall.
So that is a big, upset, but it's going to come through.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with CBP over $14 the hard way. I think these are 2 very even fantasy players. Also, 2 fantasy players whose attention is likely elsewhere this week. I got some info from my guys in the desert. CBP is skiing in the Smoky Mountains just outside of Boone, North Carolina. And $14 the hard way, in addition to having 2 young kids, is also now enrolled in an MBA program. So 2 golfers that are traditionally very strong, maybe with their minds elsewhere this week. I like CBP to come out on top because, again, like my previous pick, Spartaneity, he's a fantasy golf player that comes through in the big tournaments and tends to win. So to recap quickly, for the odds to win the tournament, I'm taking Spartaneity at plus 250. Tin Cup is taking CBP plus 275. Shallow Cal takes the double par special at plus 300. For our matchups, Shallow Cal picking against the host, double par special over yours truly, Sports Guy Ty. Roy Tin Cup McAvoy is taking Hags to Rags over a fellow podcast host, Shallow Cal, and I'm going with CBP over $14 the hard way. We're going to recap these next week and see how close everybody was, but we got to finish up here, get this show tied up and a bow put on it. Let's revisit our storylines again quickly. Give me a sentence or two analysis on, first of all, tell us again what your storyline is for the PGA Tour for 2021. Tell us what your storyline is for the Sunday Sandbagger Fantasy Golf League for segment 2. And give me a couple sentences of analysis. Tin Cup, hit me.
Yeah, so again, I alluded to the super season, as everyone's calling it. Kind of an amazing year this year. 14 tournaments that were postponed or canceled in 2020 that are now pushed to this season. I mean, you've got 6 majors. You've got the Olympics. You've got Ryder Cup being pushed into September, still being played over at Whistling Straits. Total of 50 tournaments this year. Just played the Masters. The Masters is only 100 days away. If you're not a fan of golf, this tournament, this season might turn you around.
I can't wait for the essentially the super season, as you said. 6 majors in the 2021 PGA Tour season. We end the last major of 2020 is the Masters. We get to start with the Masters as the first major of 2021. I can't wait.
Unbelievable.
And what about your storyline for segment 2, Sunday Sandbagger?
So for Sunday Sandbagger, I just wanted to throw some shade at some of these non-Searsucker winners. I mean, you know, you and I are looking so dapper here. We're wondering if anybody else is going to emerge as a winner here. Finally, we've got Eric's Winners, which his name is starting to become kind of ironic. You know, Hags to Rags. Will he finally become Hags to Riches, or maybe Hags to Stitches with the Searsucker jacket here? Again, double par special. Who his name just. He started out with birdies and eagles, ended with double pars, and
you're right.
That's rough. You know, Bradley. You know, I mean, he's looking for his second career win. I always heard the first one was the hardest, but apparently the second's the hardest. And then he got 14 the hard way. I mean, he could be a favorite. He's got 8 career wins overall. He's never won it, never driven it home, and of course, Shallow Cal. I just have no confidence in you.
So we've had, as I mentioned, 6 golfers win Searsucker jackets. I've got 3 of them. CBP's got 2, and then 1 each for Spartan 80, Patrick Weed, Roy Tin Cup McAvoy, and now Dimpled Balls. I think your segment 2 Searsucker jacket comes out of that group. I think one of those 6 adds to the collection. If I'm looking at somebody outside that group, I'm going to go Hags to Rags for the simple consistency. I love Bradley Peterson on a week-to-week basis. Think he can rise up any week and win a tournament, win a side pot, but I worry too much about him missing a lineup to get a jacket.
Yep.
Shallow Callow, give me your storylines.
Well, it's definitely not me winning a Searsucker jacket. My storylines consist of me winning all that Glen Coffee money. Honestly, the big story to me has just been Jordan Spieth. I'm really sad to see how such a great player just completely lost everything, and it's gone from really great to okay to bad to like really bad, and he can't find like he's 4, 5, 6 over par in tournaments. You know, that's not what you expect from somebody who was at one point ranked at number 2 in the world. Mm-hmm. So
it's kind of sad, man. I hate it for Spieth. He was so much fun to watch when he was winning those majors, when he was winning all the big tournaments. When that putter gets hot, man, I mean, he's money from 25 feet and in when he's on, but it's I don't know what it is. I don't know if he lost it between the ears. I know he's been working on his swing.
It's not his putter though. It's he'll hit 3 shots in a row into the woods. You know, I mean, it's unbelievable what he does with his mishits. It's like our mishits. You know, when the pros mishit a shot, they're off the green, and when Jordan Spieth's hitting a mishit, he's in the woods. You know, it's like us.
I'm cheering for him to get back, man. I like Jordan. I hope that he finds it because it's been hard to watch.
Like a comeback story.
And I'm rooting for him too because he's a young dude. He's not that old, so hopefully he can get it back for sure.
All right, storyline for Sandbagger.
The other line for Sandbagger is for my sake and the other people's sake, I hope us back end guys can make a run at the front, and the front just doesn't dominate and pull away because you love to see a little competition. So hopefully the back end, I'd love to see him pull up towards the front and have a little bit more grouping.
Hope springs eternal for PGA Tour Fantasy Golf when a new segment starts.
Exactly.
It's a clean slate, so there's there's a reason only 6 people have ever won a seersucker jacket.
Oh my God, it sounds fantastic, but
I've got some ideas too that I'll introduce on the next podcast on how we can make that club a bit more exclusive. All right, let me give you my storylines quickly. First, for the world of golf, are we going to see Charlie Woods play another round of golf on live television before the next PNC Championship in December? I say yes. That was so much fun watching Tiger and Charlie play together. He has the sweetest swing. That dude bombs it at 11 years old. He's dead straight every time. He captivated the TV audience. There's too much money to be made on Tiger and Charlie not playing. Only thing I worry about is where does it happen? There's not a gap in the schedule other than Thanksgiving.
You said he bombs it, but he hit a 5 wood, 175 yards.
He's 11 years old.
I think I saw you hit your 5 wood like 3 yards. So what's your point?
I hit my 9 iron 175 yards. So
well, congratulations! You can beat up somebody that is you're 3 times older than.
Charlie will play again on tour this year. Sponsors exemption.
We got to find a way to see more of Charlie Woods on live.
Sponsors exemption. Charlie Woods, yes. I mean, even if he's bad. I mean, all the women. Michelle Wu, right?
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Wu, yeah. Played on tour, sponsors exemption. Why not Charlie Woods? If he's going to make them money, why would they not make money? Right?
Because he's 11 years old. It's going to have to be. It's going to have to be a made-for-TV event. But I'm okay with that.
Filmed Home Alone, so why not make money when they can?
Give me like Tiger and Charlie versus John Daly and Little John Daly on Thanksgiving. That's a match. Put it out at Tiger.
I just want Charlie versus Justin Thomas with the handicap, just so I can hear Charlie talking shit to JT and JT talking shit to Charlie, because I think that would be worth. Like I would. I mean, that would be I would listen to that. Talking mad shit and whatnot, because that's how we play, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Hey, you want to take another shot of Fireball so you missed this par 3 green?
All right, my storyline for the Sunday Sandbagger segment 2. Are we going to see Ridgely submit a lineup? I say no.
No.
I say no for several reasons. So this is now the 3rd time that he has quit the league because of hurt feelings. Done it previously when I made too much fun of him for losing to me in the Fantasy Golf Football Championship 3 years ago, after he won the inaugural UPS Cup Championship. He had a few too many KBS at 9 a.m. this year. Started talking some shit about Michigan getting beat by Minnesota. Was too embarrassed to come back and answer to that. So Ridgely is currently inactive in the league. I do think we're going to see Ridgely submit a lineup before the end of the year. It doesn't happen in segment 2 because he likes to let the big dog eat. He doesn't get out of bed for the $45 side pots. When we have a major or the TPC and we're playing for triple digits, I'll convince Ridgely to submit a lineup.
I think I agree with you. Unfortunately, with no majors in segment 2, I don't see him participating unless maybe we goad him into it.
Yeah.
He was such a great contributor to the league, and the commentary was great. The
first year he was one of the best ones in the league.
Bring him back, man.
That southern element to it.
We'll we'll hear from Ridgely again. This isn't the end. But what is the end of is the inaugural edition of the Sunday Sandbagger podcast. We got to wrap up. We're going to do a lot better job next week, keeping this under an hour, cleaning up our scripts and our topics here. No, we're not.
No.
But what we are going to do next week, we'll recap all of our picks. We'll recap our best bets, both for the Century Tournament of Champions as well as for our Fantasy Golf League. We'll start introducing some new segments such as Bogey of the Week. We will talk about our favorite golf courses that we've ever played at.
Your mom, it's got Boat of the Week.
And then we will we'll introduce full betting cards for all three participants next week. So we've got a little bit to talk about and to track here going forward. So that is the end of the first episode of the Sunday Sandbagger podcast. I'm your host, Sports Guy Ty, joined by Roy Tin Cup McAvoy and Shallow Cal. Until next week, fellas, enjoy.
Take care.